Hi, my name is Kimberly Smice, and this is my presentation for EDL 854, Module 1. So a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Illinois. What brought me out to Kansas was that my husband was in the Army and was stationed at Fort Riley. And after a couple of years of living here, we PCSed up to Alaska, and he got out and we decided we wanted to move back to Fort Riley area to raise our family and start our careers. I have been married to my husband for the past 9 years. We have 3 children, Kira, who is 4, and will start preschool in just a couple of weeks, and then Hunter and Cooper, who are about a year and a half. And if you notice my pictures, Hunter is the one with blonde hair, and Cooper is the one with brown hair. My hobbies contain taking pictures. I love to take pictures of my family and also of the beautiful scenery around me. I also love to go hiking. Traveling is something I love to do. And during COVID, I have found my passion for reading when I'm not doing schoolwork, and also for baking and trying some new recipes. My ultimate favorite thing to do, though, is just to spend time with my family doing many different things. So for my education, in 2011, I graduated from Illinois State with my Bachelor's of Science in Elementary Education. In 2019, I graduated with my Master's of Science in Educational Leadership from Kansas State University by going through the Pella program through my school district. For my teaching experience, I am starting my 9th year of teaching. I did two years in Geary County before we PCSed up to Alaska, where I taught in Anchorage, Alaska for 2 years as well, and I taught 3rd grade at a Title I school. And then returning to Kansas, I went back to Geary County and have been teaching 4th grade ever since. So, reflecting back on the resources that were given to us to review, my top 10 takeaways from the articles. Well, first, I learned about site or school-based management, or SBM. I had never heard of this before, thinking that the school would be in charge of the money, how they chose. Within restrictions. I'd never heard of that, and I thought that that was an astonishing idea. The big idea that I took away from that, though, is that principals get to make the decisions for the needs of their students. It's not the district telling them what to do. They know what their students need, and they make those decisions. So I thought that was a great idea, and kind of wondered, why don't we do that more? Why doesn't my district do it? Well, they also talked about centrally managed resources, which is what my district does, since it's pretty big, meaning that the district level makes the decision and then allocates out the money to the different schools. First off, consistency. You need to have the same information across the district. You need to have the same funding. Also, it's more cost effective. They gave the example of textbooks, and in my district, there are 13 elementary schools. And what if all 13 elementary schools did something different, spending all that money on different resources, and then if kids move schools, it can get very complicated. So overall, while I like the SBM idea, I can also see why the CMR is a good resource for my district for sure. One thing that really brought some light to my eyes was when they talked about principals having more of a financial role, but a big concern is that they lack financial literacy and also bookkeeping. They have to be in charge of money for their schools, but many of them never took a course or only took a few courses about finances, but they're in charge of thousands of dollars. So that's something that has changed over time, and really the principal's job shifting overall, right? They used to just be a manager, but now they're in charge of school reform, they're in charge of finances and budgeting, and also educational objectives and goals. So the idea of a principal isn't just being in charge of the students or the teachers, it's a whole big picture now that has changed over the years. Another fact that I learned was that 92% of education spending comes from state and local funds. I used to think that federal funding is where schools got most of their money, right? Thinking that it came from all there. But over time, and really this article really pointed out what percentage comes from our own state, which also explains why when taxes go up, people get upset, or why people live in a certain area, they might have more money to spend in that district. So I just see how important this really can be and why it's important to be up to date on what is happening in your own government. Another thing that I found important was the state level determines the allotments for spending. I didn't realize that there could be many different ways that you would have to spend your money in your district. It said that in North Carolina, there was 37 allotments and ways that they could get money. So the state only gives you the money if you have to use it or could use it in these different ways, which seems kind of interesting because a big district has something different than a little district. And so is it necessarily fair to those students that the finances aren't the same in both of those when the little district might have just as many needs as the big district, just doesn't have those allotments to be given to? So I found that one really interesting. And another big one was the alternatives to state control of funds, right? That there's different ways that the state could actually end up giving the money. They talk about the California's local control funding formula, which said that they eliminated 50 category grants and then gave the money to the superintendents that would have went into those grants, and they were able to have some more flexibility in spending. And they said that 82% of superintendents said it aligned better with their goals, strategies, and resource allocation decisions. So they were able to feel like the funding was more purposeful. And the other one that really stuck out to me was the principal empowerment accounts, which is similar to the education saving accounts that Florida, Arizona, and Tennessee do, where they give parents a debit card and they have so much money that they can spend per student towards private tuition or tutoring. And what would be similar to this is that a principal could get a debit card, but they would get so much money per student to be able to spend how they chose within limitations. So I thought those were all great ideas and things that I did not know before. So when it comes to my personal principal in finances, I have seen him identify costs that need to be covered by the school. How much money can I spend on ordering different materials for my classroom, and what websites do I need to go out to find how much I could spend to then give to my secretary to order. I've also seen how funding can affect our school or how it cannot. Like the example of funding gets cut, we can't have as many teachers, even it makes the class sizes bigger, or we've even someone resigned in the middle of the year for a teacher's aide and we weren't able to fill that role because of costs that we endured throughout the year. Another big one is fundraising through PTO. They are our main fundraisers, and the principal goes to each one of those meetings along with the teacher to then find out what fundraising they want to do and how we'll spend that money after they raise the money. And also, I've seen them hire classified staff throughout the year, especially as we have more needs come in, and then the district says we can hire another person. I haven't seen my principal budget before, never seen that happen, and he's not in charge of the credit cards, debit card, cash flow. The secretary is in charge of all those things. I can really see that happening because you want to delegate some of that to others, and also as a principal you can't do everything yourself, so having someone reliable that you can go to that's in charge of that is very important, especially since parents bring in cash, so you need to have the same person accounting for all the money that's coming into your school. And I also haven't seen SBM happen at our school. Again, just because we're in a bigger district, we have some money that our school is allotted, but really everything comes from the district and we just have a set amount that we can spend in different categories. So when it comes to financial concerns as a future school leader, well, a big thing is the responsibilities with the finances from my district. What allotments are they going to say I need to spend in? Could there be like a gray area between the two? I want to make sure I spend them in the correct areas, which also brings me to identifying the priorities for my school. So what are the areas that my new school would need me to spend money on? And then when I identify those, spending the money evenly or however it is needed in there, so I'm not regretting my decision later or running out of funds when I really should have used it in this category instead of the other category. Another one is having an honest and trustworthy bookkeeper. I feel like there is a lot of articles that come out now about, people not being honest with the money that they're spending or changing stuff on books. So I'd have to find someone reliable, and hopefully the person that would be there before would be, but it's always building that trust with your bookkeeper. And really the big concern for me is the unknown. There's always going to be something that comes up, and with finances, that's always a scary thing because money is a very touchy subject. So I'd hate for something to happen, and just those unknown decisions, especially since I'm a planner, I want to know what I should do, and that might not always happen. And I need to have an answer for something. So just really the unknowns that could come up. So thank you so much for taking the time and watching my presentation. I hope you took some things away from it. And here are the resources that I used throughout my presentation. Thank you so much and have a great day.